Are lightweight pulse rifles meta? No. I would argue and say they're potentially the worst archetype of pulse rifles in the game. Matter of fact, when we were discussing the topic of fixing the PvP sandbox, lightweight pulse rifles was one of the forefront archetypes of weapon that we said needed a buff. Now, the reason why this bothers me is because lightweight pulse rifles were some of my favorite. Nightshade was my baby back in year one. Yeah, things like Chattering Bone, Agena, Argona, Infinite Paths, Nurgle. So needless to say, I've always been rooting for lightweight pulse rifles. Now, Omlon has brought us a new pulse rifle called the Ogma PR6. Now, it's the first of its kind because, of course, it comes with the origin trait Omlon Fluid Dynamics. The weapon essentially has plus 20 stability and plus 30 reload for the top half of the magazine. This is extremely beneficial for both PvE and for PvP, but especially for things like PvP, where just about every gunfight will take place and conclude with that first half of the map, which means just about every single gunfight, we're starting off with an extremely stable weapon with a very fast reload. Now, another reason why I'm really keying in on Ogma is lightweight pulse rifles are getting a buff next season, which is really only about, 3 weeks away, a little more than 3 weeks away. So it's right around the corner. But essentially, pulse rifles are getting a bump there in their range, both on the low end and the high end, which I know we don't have a lot of long range maps, but I will say lightweight frames do run into damage fall off, even on mid-range maps, right? So just having that full damage is really nice and maintaining that TTK value of 0.87, but at the same time, again, extending that range allows for your pulse rifle, or any weapon for that matter, to remain sticky, to still land shots. And so this range bump, although it may look minor, will play a big role. On top of that, they're also increasing lightweight pulse rifle damage per bullet from 15 to 16. And stated with the 1.65 precision scalar, this will increase the precision damage from 24.75 to 26.4. Now, this is not going to result in a drop in your time to kill. You're still going to be looking at a 0.87 TTK value for weapons like Ogma. However, forgiveness-wise, this is going to be noticeable. 6 crits, 2 bodies will be able to kill Guardians at 5 resilience or less. This is significant considering right now, you pretty much have to hit 8 crits in order to reach that time to kill value. And again, 8 out of those 9 shots in those given 3 bursts all having to be crits, that leaves very little forgiveness. So just throwing in there a couple body shots is pretty nice. But just to take it a step further, if you're looking to just get the guaranteed 3 bursts every single time, which is really not going to affect the TTK here, as it literally comes out as a burst, so it's still going to be somewhere around that 0.87, 0.9 time to kill, you can actually get a kill in 5 crits, 4 body. And that's easily on Guardians, 8 resilience or less. Again, no major change in terms of time to kill, but in terms of forgiveness, it is substantial. What this means is that in a gunfight, you really only have to land 1 burst perfectly, all 3 crits. After that, you can land 1 crit, 2 body, and then 1 crit, 2 body again. In my opinion, based on these numbers, I think we're going to be seeing lightweight pulse rifles being used. What beats me up now when using Ogma, it's really not its time to kill, it's its forgiveness. And what the result is, I have a lot of Guardians in front of me that scoot away because by the time I get to that 4th burst, if I miss some of my shots, well, hell, they're getting out of there, man. By that point, they're already dipping back into cover. So with that being said, I know this has been a very long-winded intro for lightweight pulse rifles. I just wanted to establish that they're looking pretty juicy for the upcoming sandbox. Let's talk about the roles that I currently have on my Ogmas, both for PvE and for PvP, and why you should lock this pulse rifle down. Now, for PvP, I actually didn't really have the God role for PvP. I just had a mix of some really good traits that I tested out, as well as some almost max range or practically max range Ogmas. Like this one right here with full bore accurized round heating up in Wellspring. Again, this one came with a range masterwork. What I really liked about this one though was how far it could reach. 40.27 meters is what it can reach up to while aiming down sights. Now, what's interesting here is reaching back into the pulse rifle discussion a couple of twabs ago when they were talking about lightweight pulses. They actually stated that the damage fall off far distance remains 40 meters regardless of the range stats. And this is not even taking into account the range bump we're going to be getting with lightweight pulses. So looking at this, I don't think going full bore and accurized rounds is the way to go. We're going to be getting a range bump by default. And the more I start to look at this, the more I wonder, would it be better to just do something like arrowhead break instead of full bore? This, of course, wouldn't hurt my stability or my handling, and it would still keep me somewhere around 38.17 meters. On top of that, my recoil direction would be at 85, and if I wanted to throw on a counterbalance mod, voila, we're sitting at a whopping 100 recoil direction, keeping the weapon perfectly vertical. Now, 38.17 is not the max, but we're still not even taking into account the range bump that we're going to be getting. And I know it's sitting at 62 on the range stats, so roughly looking at 0.7 meters being added to that, maybe 0.8. So almost 39 meters. I mean, guys, that's practically the cap while still maintaining the weapon's integrity and consistency. It's not all about just pumping those stats out. We got to be able to use the dang weapon, right? Then you're probably wondering, Cross, why not steady rounds? You can throw the stability up to 70. Wouldn't that be nice? Well, remember, guys, we're already looking at Omlon fluid dynamics giving us 20 stability. I know it scales as the mag empties, but you're already starting off with improved stability right from the get-go. And when we look at the roles that I'm considering the god role for PvP, at least, I'm immediately looking at perpetual motion. I think that's the best stat here for PvP, so keep that in mind. We're talking perpetual motion at 2 stacks, giving 10 stability, 20 handling, 20 reload. My lord, you combine that with Omlon fluid dynamics, you're pretty much sitting at the cap or fairly close to it. But again, for me, arrowhead break, Aztecross rounds, that's primarily where I want to be, combined with perpetual motion. Now that final column, what is the best route for PvP? Wellspring is always really, really good. Dragonfly is not bad. You can tack on some AoE damage against opponents that are stacked together. Adrenaline Junkie, that's kind of a weird one for me. Depending on the next 3.0 subclass, that's going to be a big deciding factor. The weapon does deal solar damage, and if solar 3.0 is the next subclass we're leaning into, this of course means a lot of our solar abilities are going to be more potent, especially our grenades. And a grenade-based build with Adrenaline Junkie gets pretty nasty at those higher stacks. I mean, when you get 1 stack, it's not much at 6.6%, but 3 stacks, damn near 20%, 5 stacks at 33%, it starts to tack on. I think the main thing overall, though, with these lightweight pulse rifles is to go for that consistent roll first, and that final column there is just a nice cherry with whatever direction you want to go. Overall, Ogma, by no means, is just destroying the insides of Crucible, but I do think, considering it is an Omlon weapon, considering it has a lot of consistency, especially if you load it out with the right barrel perk, going into this next sandbox, Ogma is going to be positioned very well for PvP. Now, for PvE, I already think Ogma is fantastic. This is one of the best pulse rifles you can get right now, and I was trying all kinds of combinations out. I've got a stats for all, 1 for all combo, which by the way is so fun. The synergy here between these 2 traits is fantastic. Literally get that 35% buff after hitting 3 separate opponents, and then voila, you've got increase in handling, stability, and reload. These traits were meant for each other, and it's a fantastic combination. Another combo that I was using was actually this roll right here, which was adaptive munitions, where the weapon adapts its damage output and effectiveness against energy shields that don't match the weapon's damage type, and turnabout. Using the weapon to break the shield of a Cabana or a Guardian using their super will grant you an overshield. So you can see where like both of these traits synergize together. You've got adaptive munitions, which essentially starts off at 167% increase in damage against those shields, and then ramps up to 500%. By the way, this does apply to barrier champions shields. Of course, you need pulse rifle anti-barrier mods for that season. Maybe it's coming next season. If it is, adaptive munitions disruption break is going to be such a godly combination. Fellas, please, for the love of God, look through your vault today. Make sure you do not delete that roll, because whether it's this coming up season or the next season, that roll is going to be nasty. Talk about instantly shredding a barrier champion, and then you proceed to just swap over to your kinetic weapon, and voila, insta pow wow. And considering that Arbalest is also getting a nerf next season, I'm not saying it's not still going to be good, but I am going to consider some other alternatives. Now, other roles to consider is, of course, Demolitionist, Adrenaline Junkie. I just talked about the potential for Solo 3.0 being the next subclass that gets revamped. This is a combination that's going to be beautiful. Solar, think about from D1, what were they known for? In my opinion, they were known for the grenades. Think about Sunsingers with Viking Funeral and Fireball grenades, fusion grenades on pretty much every single class. Hell, even the potency of trip mine grenades with Homkar's Spine. Imagine if that gets elevated. Long story short, a Demolitionist Adrenaline Junkie combo together, fantastic. And if that doesn't tickle your pickle and you just want to go for ability regeneration, Demolitionist Wellspring. Dude, just double up. Every single kill is giving you ability energy. One of them being divided up, the other going directly to your grenade. Considering you're probably going to be using your grenade a bunch, this is going to compensate greatly for that grenade energy coming back. So guys, that is Ogma pretty much. This is a weapon that is positioned very well for PvE already in the current sandbox. For PvP, I think it's going to have a much better fighting chance going into the next sandbox with more forgiveness. And considering that this is an Omlon weapon, I think with its origin trait, this weapon is going to be one of the more consistent lightweight pulse rifles that we have in rotation, and having the right roll of Ogma is going to present you lots of options next season. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, a like always helps. Let me know in the comments below if you like Ogma PR6. We've got a number of other weapons to review before the end of the season, so be looking out for all of those. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.